Hey, we are back again with another edition of DevHub Live. I am your host, Joe. Excited to have everyone back here this week with another great guest that I'm excited to jump into. A couple quick housekeeping things before we get started here. Just want to make sure if you've not already subscribed to our newsletter, it comes out every single week about the Near developer community, things that are going on here at Near AI. Definitely check that out. That link is down below. Great place to get started there. Also, too, there's different hackathons always going on around the ecosystem. We list those in the newsletter. Definitely check those out. If you're building here on Near and you want to get started, again, we'll stream the links here at the bottom all the way through. But today's guest, which is what I really want to get to. So we've had a few different Bitcoin-related DeFi products on here the past few months, and they've all had something a little bit different to offer, and this is definitely another one here too. Templar Protocol is one that they just announced a fundraising, which is exciting for them as well. But they are taking a little bit different approach than the ones that we've talked about before. So we are going to talk about what it means to build, what their product actually is, kind of going into the piece of for I guess DeFi and what that means to really leverage Bitcoin and how Near is enabling that. I think that's the part that we're going to really dive into a little bit more today. Also want to talk about just kind of the concept of crypto in general and kind of where they're coming from. This is a really interesting backstory. You may have seen our guest today, Royal Fool, on the Redacted speaker panel. He did a panel there during the Redacted conference as well. So we're going to get into all the different things here. Again, if you have questions or things that come up during the episode, you're more than welcome to put it into the comment box of anywhere you might be streaming this, whether it's on Twitch, YouTube here, or on X. And we will try to maybe get to some of your questions if they are reasonable. And before I bring up my guest, just the last thing is this is no financial advice here. We are simply just talking about kind of building and focusing on that. This is absolutely not financial advice. And let's get going. Royal Fuel, thank you so much for joining today. I'm really actually excited to talk about all different things here, but maybe just let's start with introducing yourself and what Templar is.
All right. Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm Royal Fool. I've been a developer previously, and I co-founded Templar Protocol, which allows you to borrow stablecoins against Bitcoin without trusting centralized institutions.
Nice. So, what exactly for? I guess there's a few different products out there, not just in Near through the ecosystem. What is Templar trying to do that separates themselves from some of these other like Bitcoin-based protocols here?
Um, so I'd say that what we're trying to solve is a trust minimized lending market with Bitcoin. Um, so that enables kind of permissionless lending of multiple stablecoins on any chain natively against Bitcoin. So we're not doing any bridging.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the Bitcoin lives on the L1 the entire time. There's no wrapping that happens, and the stable coins can arrive in your wallet of choice, and we're also implementing it such that there's no requirement of a MetaMask, Phantom, Meteor style wallet to be connected. It follows the simple send receive functionality. There's some pretty cool near tech that enables us to do that. But that really opens up the potential user base for our product to on the order of 50 million different accounts, and we could argue users that have those on-chain wallets
Mm-hmm.
with smart contract functionality versus it's estimated that there's around 500 million different people holding crypto in different wallets and exchanges. So we're enabling those users who don't have like an on-chain wallet to use our product
Mhm.
without that extra friction of onboarding to like an on-chain wallet.
Right, right. A few things I definitely want to get into here around building, but I want to just take a little higher level view first. And for maybe those in the audience who don't fully understand and want to learn a little bit more about like the kind of the Bitcoin side of this, like why is Bitcoin the right asset to build a protocol around like this?
Yeah, I mean, it is by far the largest crypto asset. It's around 60% of the market cap dominance. And people like holding it as a store of value. There are other use cases for it, but that's kind of taken the place as the predominant use case of Bitcoin, an
Hmm.
uncensorable, decentralized store of value that can be permissionlessly sent and accessed anywhere in the world. And that's a huge unlock. The Unfortunately, the problem has arisen that if you want to access liquidity with that Bitcoin, your options become rather limited. Um, Ideally, like in a peer-to-peer world where everyone can send and accept Bitcoin,
Hmm.
you're able to spend your Bitcoin, but the adoption for Bitcoin as a payment network has been rather limited. Um, so then you're left with after that, okay, I want to spend some sort of fiat currency, which is short-term stable. And then you either need to sell your Bitcoin, which may incur taxable events that may uh, limit your ability to have any future upside appreciation for the Bitcoin. And that's not something everyone wants to do. Um, so then what you need to do is you need to borrow against your Bitcoin.
Hmm.
That way you don't need to incur a taxable event, um, and you don't lose out on the upside. Um, Now, the existing solutions for borrowing your Bitcoin are rather centralized. You have Coinbase, which is offering borrowing against Bitcoin, but that requires that you custody your Bitcoin with them. And technically, they also wrap that Bitcoin as well, which is also a taxable event. So that kind of doubly defeats the purpose of borrowing against your Bitcoin there. Um, the previous solutions out there were like BlockFi and Celsius as well, and we all saw how that went. There's some newer approaches out there as well, but they all have their different trade-offs. For example, you can have wrapped Bitcoin that you can borrow on Aave or on Morpho or Compound. But that also involves custodying your Bitcoin with BitGo. Um, so the ability to actually borrow against your Bitcoin without trusting a centralized third party, that hasn't properly been solved yet. And we think that using the MPC network, which shards the private key among a network of nodes, is a good solution to that. It's a good first step. And this solution isn't just something that we thought of. It was actually proposed by Nick Szabo in his 2001 piece, "Trusted Third Parties Are Security Holes,"
Hmm.
uh, where using that MPC network replaces the centralized third party. In this
Right.
case, like Coinbase or BitGo.
Yeah, no, I think if you've been around long enough, you've certainly seen the dangers of holding with somebody else. For for you guys, as you're starting to build this protocol, and again, before we get too technical, I just thinking about like the users here and what your product is trying to get across. You have a very clear vision of trying to stay true to the cypherpunk model of you own everything, self-sovereign. You are going to be in control of all of this, and also unlocking at the same time the ability to leverage some DeFi off of Bitcoin, which again, like you said, is hard to spend. And sometimes, again, people don't want to spending. If you believe that it's going to continue to rise in value and appreciate, it goes like that. How though do you start to think about though, like competing with some of these centralized places where they try to tout that the user experience is easier, whether it is or isn't, but they try to come across like, oh, you're already using Coinbase, it's already here you can do this. How do you start to get that message out and get other people to believe in that same vision as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think it's necessarily that we're trying to compete solely on user experience. I think there have been enough people that have been hurt or have had a bad user experience with a centralized exchange, whether it was a hack in the past or whether it's just with Coinbase, who frankly has just ignored their customers who are retail as of late. They've been focusing on institutional adoption on their institutional clients, which makes sense because Coinbase custodies around 10% of the Bitcoin supply in existence today. That's based off of a River report in November of 2024, I believe. So that goes really counter to the ethos of Bitcoin. I mean, that's where all the almost 90% of the ETFs are custodied with Coinbase. That's where Sailor and a lot of corporations custody their Bitcoin. The U.S. government is buying Bitcoin. That they're probably going to be using Coinbase. A lot of the big funds in the U.S. And in the Western world, they use Coinbase as well.
Hmm.
And in the event that there is a contentious hard fork within the Bitcoin community again, like what happened in 2017, they can kind of like tip the scales on the outcome of that by saying we only give this one version of Bitcoin to our clients, or and we may choose to sell the other version of Bitcoin which we don't agree with, and we think that the version that we're giving our clients is the real version of Bitcoin. And that may include changes that hurt the decentralization of the Bitcoin network in the long run. So I think that for the users that really care about
Hmm.
the long-term success of Bitcoin and Bitcoin being truly decentralized, incredibly neutral, that they're not going to want to custody their Bitcoin with another centralized institution. They would
Yep.
instead prefer a network. And on that point, we also have plans to implement like a multi-sig where users can hold there will be 3 different keys. So there will be a 2 or 3 multi-sig where users hold one key, the MPC network holds another key, and then another neutral third party holds the third key. And that allows users to recover their Bitcoin in the event that the MPC network is no longer live. And it also allows there to be kind of programmatic liquidation in the event that the user's collateral ratio falls below the minimum. So in this future iteration, we'd allow users to properly maintain custody of their Bitcoin.
Hmm.
The actual MPC network would still be a pretty decentralized solution as well, and that would hold another key. And then a neutral third party would hold the third. So we have some good plans on the roadmap for ensuring that in the long run, there's proper decentralization of the Bitcoin network, and users are still able to hold their keys, custody their funds.
Really, it's a really interesting concept. I want to talk about this custody piece here. How, and again, this where our audience is a little more technical, so feel free to go deeper. But how are you maintaining that custody and allowing people to borrow against? Like, so you talk
Yeah,
about leveraging the MVC network, but what goes into this aspect right now?
yeah. So with the MPC network, that essentially takes a single private key and it shards it into multiple different pieces. And the idea is that none of the other holders of a shard know what they're unable to reconstruct it without everyone going around and adding their kind of unique shard back to the key. And with the MPC network running in a trusted execution environment, that ensures that none of the shards get leaked to any of the other participants in case there's any malware that's running on it. So yeah, that custody is it's split among the network of nodes that are running the MPC network. And it is callable from the near smart contract runtime via chain signatures. So the smart contract that accepts the Bitcoin as collateral is able to create a deposit address for which the corresponding private key is held in sharded form on the MPC network. And then when either the user repays their loan and wants to withdraw their stablecoins, then the contract checks if those conditions are properly met and then calls the MPC network saying, hey, release the funds back to the user. Or in the event of liquidation, in the event that the collateral ratio falls below the minimum, the smart contract calls the MPC network saying, hey, release these funds to the liquidator. So yeah.
Interesting. So in this setup, and so you talked about users being able to come in, not having to have a wall set up. So like, what does that onboarding experience have to look like?
Yeah.
Do I just register an account and now I have to like, where does the Bitcoin come into this process of onboarding?
Yeah. So on the near side of things, the way that we set it up is that the user who doesn't know this behind the scenes that's using the front end, they actually have a trial account, and that trial account that maps to their unique user ID. And then there's a meta transaction relayer that pays for the transaction fees so that when the user clicks the button saying, here are the terms of the loan that I agree to, that actually creates a transaction that gets sent to the contract by the meta transaction relayer. And that says, specifies that everything that's necessary for the contract to get the process started. Here's the amount of Bitcoin to accept as collateral. Here are the collateral ratio. Here's the repayment terms, etc. Interest rate, all that stuff. And then here's the stablecoin address to send the funds to, what network it's on, what stablecoin, etc. Once the contract receives that, then it sets up the Bitcoin deposit address using chain signatures. The user scans a QR code or pastes in the address to send the Bitcoin to, and the user sends that Bitcoin natively on the L1 using their wallet or from their exchange to the deposit address. When the Bitcoin Lite client confirms the balance of the collateral address, and that balance has been received, then the funds for the borrow and the stablecoin are sent to the address that the user specified. That address could be on Near, that address could be on Ethereum, in the future it could be on Solana, L2s, etc. And that could be
Is that
US
using near intents or just chain signatures?
That's just the chain signatures, because on the other side of things, the lenders provide the stable coins to the lending market.
Right. Okay. Really interesting. So I can see, so this definitely feels different than other solutions in the sense that like I can have, let's say, my cold wallet that I want to maybe send some funds out of and still use this. I don't have to actually connect anything else. I don't have to swap anywhere. I can just say, okay, I feel comfortable sending, let's say you have a cold card, right? And I can actually send from there, something like
Yep.
that. I can just be off and running and borrow against that.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, this is also compatible with institutional wallet flows as well that just have like send and receive functionality. So yeah, there's no Connect wallet that is necessary.
Yeah.
It is optionally supported. Um, there are Bitcoin wallets that allow you to connect. There are obviously near ETH Solana wallets that you can connect in order to like receive the stable coins in order to like sign the transaction as opposed to the meta transaction relayer. But that's optional in our setup. So yeah, you can send it from a Ledger, Trezor, Cold Card, whatever your hardware wallet of choice. It's compatible with that. And then the stable coins just could be sent directly to an exchange address if you'd like. So you could sell that USDC, USDT, whatever, and get funds within your bank account.
How are you guys managing liquidation and price and things like that? Is
Yep.
that something that you're that's all fully automated as well?
So just like most DeFi protocols, we track when loans are eligible for liquidation based off of collateral ratios, or the inverse of that is LTV, loan to values. And when a loan is eligible for liquidation by being below the collateral ratio, then either like a liquidator can come in and liquidate that collateral and get a reward for doing that. Or we could also call the near intense framework. Now, this is a rather attractive solution to us because that kind of cuts out the middleman of the liquidator, so that the spread on the liquidation, basically the difference between the value recovered from the collateral being sold and the principal plus fees that the borrower has incurred, whatever's left over there, that gets split among the lenders and the protocol. There's no need to pay for the liquidator because the intense framework handles that liquidation and kind of takes care of any middleman that's there.
Yeah. Interesting. So for you guys, and maybe we didn't highlight it really too much in the beginning here, but like you're truly trying to just build a protocol here. You are not serving as the liquidator or
No,
as any of that. Are you providing the stable? Is that like your business model that you're providing that and collecting interest on
no,
that?
no. I mean the protocol itself will earn revenue from fees. That could be from origination fees, which is a small amount that's charged in order to generate the loan.
Hmm.
It could earn a share of the liquidation spread as well. And there are a couple other sources that the protocol itself could earn revenue from, but we're just building the tools and releasing the protocol itself. We're creating a market so that liquidators, lenders, borrowers, etc., can meet up and make the magic happen. We are also ensuring that with the protocol design that the actual markets themselves can be permissionlessly deployed.
Hmm.
So we just deploy the code saying, "Hey, if you want to set up a Bitcoin and USDT on Near with these minimum collateral ratio, this type of interest rate utilization curve, you can do that. Set your own fees, and they
Hmm.
can deploy that market, and that market's immutable. We are using a versioning system similar to Uniswap. The actual protocol itself, once it's deployed, is permissionless and decentralized. It is not something that we have multi-sig or admin keys to make changes to once it's deployed.
Hmm.
We can make updates in the future in future versions, but those original versions will still be running, provided that the market participants are still interested. So getting back to the different parties involved there, yeah. once a market is deployed and there's interest in that market, then like a lender can deposit stable coins, and a borrower says, okay, there are these stable coins available to borrow. I'm going to deposit my Bitcoin and borrow the stable coins against that. And then in the event that the collateral falls below the liquidation ratio, a liquidator comes in and says, hey, I'd like some of that, please, and sells the collateral, recovers the stable coins so that the lender gets repaid. The protocol earns a share of that, and the liquidator gets a share as well. Like I mentioned, the near intense framework could also take care of that as well, provided there's sufficient liquidity.
Right. Sure. Sure. So, for you guys, there's a couple different things I'd love to dive into a little bit further. As a team building, uh, is the focus right now just purely on setting up the protocol and making sure that this gets to mainnet with all of these features in there? Or is there an aspect where you have to start actually onboarding some of these, and I'm just going to use the word partners for lack of a better term right now, that to come in to act as the lender and act as the liquidator, things like that?
Well, it's both. We are mainly focused on building the protocol, but
Hmm.
obviously we want it to have users as well. So that will take the form both of different partnerships to increase the distribution. Earlier this week, we announced that we'd be working with Rhea, which is recently rebranded as like the merger of Ref and Burrow, to provide native Bitcoin loans on their platform. So that users on their platform can have access to it. We'd like to work with wallet providers as well, different DeFi apps that would be interested in utilizing it. There's even been some interest from like Bitcoin miners who need to properly like hedge their exposure to Bitcoin. So being able to just send that native Bitcoin and then get stable coins back. Then with those stable coins, they're either able to like pay for options premiums or able to short as a hedge.
Hmm.
So it really unlocks a lot of different use cases. Um, and yeah, obviously we want just regular users as well.
Sure.
This is something that we built to solve problems that we ourselves were facing. So yeah.
Yeah, you're leading right into my next question. Is kind of like, where did this come from? Is this something that you personally or your team were facing? You feel like this was the next and correct iteration for this?
Yeah. So I mean, for people that are holding Bitcoin, like I mentioned, and you don't you have real world bills to pay, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you want to like take a vacation. Maybe you want to like uh, you know, buy a house, cover some medical bills, like um, yeah, like there are just all these different things that people have to pay for, and there are a lot of people that have been holding Bitcoin for a long time, and they don't want to sell it, and they don't trust Coinbase. They saw what happened with BlockFi and
Sure.
Celsius and FTX. So um, this kind of using the MPC network as a solution to the trusted third party problem really kind of like opened our eyes to, hey, this could be an actual solution
Hmm.
here, and then we can improve security assumptions and um, the using multi-sig as well as the MPC network. We believe that we can provide a really robust and secure solution to this problem without relying on a Coinbase or without relying on a BitGo.
Right.
Um, so yeah, this is a problem that we faced ourselves. Our friends have faced, who are just maybe more casual crypto users. Um, they're not in the trenches every day or don't have a MetaMask wallet to play around with DeFi.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. So for this type of setup, and as you guys are putting together this protocol, is it something where you are feeling the need to build in some of the educational pieces around what the security is here, what is the safety. Like, so for example, when a user is about to deposit their Bitcoin, is something that we feel like is imperative of showing not only just what's happened to be transparent, but like why it's being done this way? Or is that
Mhm.
something you kind of just put off to the side? And I'll just phrase this as I ask a lot of different builders in this in crypto, is like, where is the line of like educating people, especially as you bring in people who maybe are a little bit not as crypto native, and then and how much is it becomes like you don't want to be too academic, but like where does that line sit for you guys as you're building this product?
I mean, what we're thinking about is that on the actual product, when you're using it, uh, that's not where we want to do as much of the education. It
Mm,
should be like as simple as possible when you go to use it. Now, on other parts of the website, like we'll be building like an FAQ page. That's where we can both have things at a high level that's pretty introductory, and we can also dive into the technical weeds as well. We'll have like user guides, just showing how to use it in video format, so that
hmm.
people who might be a bit cautious about trying out something that's new can see, okay, here's how I expect it to work. Um, so yeah, that education piece is definitely important. Um, but we don't need to have a clippy with users as they're
Yeah.
actually using the product. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a nice balance. A lot of developers kind of feel very similar. It is a tough problem, especially as you start to open up your market towards more mainstream users, that there is a piece where you want to hopefully get across some of the ideals maybe that you're trying, like, hey, why does this protocol exist? Like, this is some things that we believe in, but there's also balance of providing too much information and causing, just concern simply because they just now don't understand what you're trying to show them, right? So
yeah.
I think that makes sense. um from a builder standpoint, you guys are building in public. Your stuff is open source. You actually, I've seen your team members post logs like on Twitter, like, hey, this is what we've been building, these are some things that I've gotten done. Why that approach for this?
Uh, yeah. You mentioned kind of the values and how we communicate that. It's we've chosen the branding Cipher Lending for a reason. It's not just something that we think that will resonate with kind of the OG crypto crowd and Bitcoiners. It's something that we actually believe in.
Yeah.
One of the main themes and narratives in the past 2 years has been institutionalization of crypto. That means ETFs. That means onboarding of like real world assets, which essentially are IOUs on chain to
Right.
stuff that you know legally is custodied by some sort of other third party. Um, and we believe in those cypherpunk principles that gave birth to crypto.
Hmm.
And we think that in order for crypto to survive long term, those principles need to be upheld. Uh, Doing everything open source and being transparent is one of those tenets of kind of like the cypherpunk principles. We believe that uh, code should be transparent and that networks, rather than centralized institutions, peer-to-peer networks, uh, solve a lot of problems with trust. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's how crypto came into existence with Bitcoin. It solved the Byzantine generals problem
Right.
through
Right.
proof of work. Um, like that was a huge breakthrough in a trust model. And people might get lazy and think, okay, well, yeah, we can just issue these IOUs on chain essentially, because one thing crypto does really well is distribution. Like you can get global access to finance, right?
Yep.
So if you issue these complicated IOUs that are custodied somewhere else, you can do that, but that's really against the spirit of what crypto is about. And we don't believe that that is the best long-term use case. We believe that being transparent about what we're doing while preserving our personal privacy is important. That's why I'm not showing my face, because I care about ultimately the quality of the product that the users ship and that gets shipped to the users.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you don't, we're not asking you to trust us. We're showing you, hey, here's what we're doing. Check out the GitHub. There'll be audits on the code. You can run it yourself. You don't need to use our trusted front end. If you want to run the front end yourself to connect to the protocol, feel free to do so. If you want to run the protocol yourself, feel free to do that and deploy your own markets. Like, we don't require that you trust us. So that's in being transparent that way, we believe that's a very good way to build trust.
Yeah, really interesting. It sounds like taking this approach made sense for you guys too, where if you were a singular product, like if you're going to be the whole suite of the product, you run the risk of having at times to make decisions where maybe you have to sacrifice some of those things in order for particular experiences. But by being a protocol, you eliminate any of that push and pull of, do I have to sacrifice for user experience or these different issues that might come up when you have the full suite. You can just say, no, like we are simply the protocol that is allowing all of this to happen.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there might be some products that are very well integrated together, and they look nice, and maybe they're easy to use, but ultimately we believe those are fragile.
Sure.
Even within the it depends on there being a very, very strong leadership that is around for a long time, right? That kind of Steve Jobs approach.
Yeah.
Apple was not known for open source. Apple is known for closed source, developing projects in secret, and making sure that everything fit together perfectly. And Apple has basically coasted since Steve Jobs has died. And you see they're becoming more and more bloat, and the product becoming less and less smooth over time since his passing. So there's a really big risk that you run in having a tightly integrated closed source product, because it might get you short-term gains, but in the long run, ultimately, we believe that open source wins. And that's the case in operating systems, as you have seen with iOS versus Android, which is based off of Linux. You see that in the case just of developers and servers and their environment of choice. It was Microsoft that was dominating the server space for a while, but now most people are running some flavor of Linux.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And we believe the same thing is true of monetary networks as well. The dollar preserved its credible neutrality as a global reserve currency because they didn't shut people down, or at least big people down. And you could say, as like somebody holding dollars, well, the US government isn't going to stop me, right? And that turned out not to be the case. Even Switzerland as well. The accounts holding the accounts for Russian oligarchs when the war in Ukraine broke out were frozen. Their assets seized. Switzerland as a country, like you can't really say that they're credibly neutral anymore. They've lost that.
Right.
So yeah, we believe in these open monetary networks. We believe in open source. We believe in building out in the open, and that ultimately, like closed sourced and centralized networks are fragile and they will fail.
Sure. So for you guys going forward here, it sounds like a couple things that you are though dependent on, and one is the chain signature piece of this from Near. Are you creating your own MPC network, or are you leveraging the one that exists from near proof of chain signatures?
No, we're not leveraging our own MPC network. We're using Near's. We would like if the Near MPC network consisted of maybe multiple different MPC networks going forward, so that there's kind of more decentralization. It's not just like a single network,
Yeah.
or that there was maybe some sharding to the MPC network itself. That would definitely help with kind of like the trust and scalability in the long run, in our opinion. But we also plan on using like the multi-sig solution, like I mentioned, where the user holds a key, the MPC network holds a key, and then like a credibly neutral third party holds a key as well. And we think that that will lead to a very good kind of best of all worlds,
Yeah.
where you have a level of decentralization, you have a level of self-sovereignty, and in the event of liquidations, those can happen programmatically. So yeah.
And for you guys, it sounds like that you are preparing as part of your roadmap and architecture here that as some of these technologies improve, right? So maybe as the MPC network improves and things like that, you are able to adjust to that and leverage, hopefully, improvements from it and things like that. But even if there are things that maybe you don't love, you're not fully beholden to this other network. Is that right?
Yeah, we would love if the near MPC network it properly scales and is credibly neutral and decentralized. We want it being a core part of our infrastructure, but we don't want it to be kind of like the a single point of failure. It's still a network, right? So the funds can't be stolen as long as one of the participants holding one of the shards is honest. That's a very nice security assumption of the MPC network.
Yeah.
But there are concerns about like liveness guarantees of the MPC network. So in the event that it goes down, we want the user to be able to regain their funds if they repay their loan.
Nice. Okay. I definitely appreciate where this approach is going. For you guys now, you're on testnet. You're going on to mainnet soon. What does this roadmap look like for the next few months?
Yeah. So we launched mainnet. Oh, well, launched testnet pretty soon. A couple weeks ago. We're aiming for a closed beta invite only mainnet launch by the end of May. That will enable us to kind of get some usage on mainnet, ensure that there's sufficient liquidity, and allow us a bit more time to get support for ETH before we do a public mainnet launch. For the closed beta, we are targeting Bitcoin as collateral. We'll support NEP 141 tokens, NEAR as collateral, but we don't want to step on Ray's shoes there, as well as stablecoins on NEAR that can be borrowed. When we do a public mainnet launch, which we're targeting like at the end of June, that will also support Ethereum stablecoins as well. On the roadmap, we'd also like to support Bitcoin LSTs. So, there's billions in TVL that's been deposited into Babylon, which is like a multi-chain staking network that allows you to earn yield on your Bitcoin. And there are other different tokens that represent the yield that could be earned on Bitcoin. That could be used as collateral. Obviously, we'd like to add more support for different stable coins. That seems to be a very hot area within crypto. We anticipate that there'll be an explosion of different stable coins, and that those will live naturally on a lot of different networks. So chain signatures definitely helps us out there. And then we'll also want to post mainnet work more on like different partnerships and integrations to increase the distribution and get the protocol into the hands of more users.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the stable coin push definitely seems to be growing a lot more momentum. You can just sense it just from recent news releases, as well as just, I think, in general, people are trying to integrate that more and more. Is there any concern with, like another like Luna, where the stablecoin depegs? Is that something that is built into this protocol?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility for any individual stablecoin. But the way that we've deployed the contract is that each of the markets that gets deployed is isolated. So let's say that Luna 2.0 comes out, and there's like a Bitcoin Luna 2.0
Hmm.
market that is deployed. In the event that Luna 2.0 depegs, that won't affect the Bitcoin, USDT, USDC, Frax, any of the other stable coins that are out there. So each market is isolated um, and not subject to like contagion. We went with that instead of the pool-based model.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Would In that scenario, would repayment be based on token number, not dollar value?
In the event of a depeg,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it would just be in the number of tokens.
tokens. Yeah.
Like yeah, in order to get the dollar value, that would require like modification of the contract and Oracle, which kind of breaks the trustless assumptions.
Right.
So
That's yeah. That's kind of okay. That's where I was kind of going with that. Of like, do you start to have to include now other parties to price that and everything else? So no, it's just token number, with the
yeah,
assumption
I
that
mean,
everything is. Yeah.
in the future, we plan on having an insurance fund in the event that so in addition to the protocol revenue accruing to the actual Templar protocol itself, as well as going to like the to the lenders, there'd also be a little bit set aside for each market to an insurance fund, and that insurance fund should help cover the event of losses in such an event.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Uh, awesome. This has been a great discussion. I'm really excited to see how you guys continue to build. I really like the ethos. I'm really glad that you're building in public so people can follow. And if you are a developer, I really encourage to follow along, because just to see what it's like to actually build in public. I think you guys are doing a really nice job of modeling that behavior, which I think is something that other developers could certainly gain some insight from. Uh, Royal Fuel, what's the best way to follow along and keep up to date with everything that's happening with Templar?
Yeah. Follow the Templar Protocol account on X if you want to get a little bit more involved in the discussion. We also have a Telegram and a Discord group. Those social links are available on our website, templarfi.org. You can check out kind of like the blog posts there. That's what'll link to the test net. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate your time today. And hopefully after mainnet, you guys can come back on and talk a little more how everything's going.
Yeah, really appreciate the conversation,
All right.
Joe.
All right. Thanks, Royal. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Folks, that was a great conversation. Again, I really always appreciate when builders can come on and just talk about the process as well. So hopefully everyone's learned something from that as there too. And again, some of the themes that we've hit on here, in case you missed it, again, being able to abstract stuff away, one of the strengths here on Near, and being able to really ease that onboard process, uh, keep up with the self custody, all those other different pieces. So it's really a nice thing to again model yourself after and watch what they're building. So definitely follow along with them on Twitter and their other socials and things like that, and stay up to date with that. For us coming up, so there is a bonus episode tomorrow around the Zcash hackathon. That is at 5 p.m. UTC. Definitely check that out. Next week we'll be back here normal time with another guest talking more about building. So definitely exciting. We're on that. And if you haven't already, please follow along on our newsletter. We have tons of stuff happening always around there. So please make sure you check that out. But until then, I'm your host, Joe, and keep building, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.